So next we had like this video, which is an essay video, I think, probably from the title. This is Frieren versus Galadriel, how to write a likable character, director's cut. We wouldn't make this an almost on a stream. I'm gonna try to shut down the request that would make it that, yeah. So yeah, I guess this is the Galadriel from the Ring of Powers, like the TV series of Lord of the Rings, which has been absolutely abysmal. I haven't watched it myself, so usually I would say, maybe it's not that bad, but from everything I've heard about it, it is probably that bad. And a few clips I've seen, it is that bad. Obviously, I'm a massive fan of Lord of the Rings. I mean, massive fan. I love it to death, so I have no interest in even trying to watch Ring of Powers. But I guess we're gonna learn a bit about it, yeah. And we see Frieren is top tier. I mean, yeah, I literally just rewatched Frieren for like the 17th or 18th time over the last week. So yeah, I like it a lot. Enough to not request anything else. Fair enough. But the channel roaming trend.
Okay, third time's the charm. After being sent to the Shadow Realm twice by Toho, I hope this time I can outfox them and keep this video.
Oh, I see. This video got copyrighted a lot. RIP.
I took the
I'm
time
scared.
to not only cut the clips that they claim were infringing copyright, I also reworked the script and added new content to clarify my points, so those who have seen the video before have something new to watch as well. Anyway, let's go. Hey kid, are you interested in a story about an overpowered elf girl who, after a tragic loss, travels through a fantasy realm to fight evil alongside diverse quirky characters? If you thought I was talking about the Lord of the Rings of Power, you'd be wrong. Let's face it, the Rings of Power had a chance to be a good show, but ultimately failed to capture the whimsical nature of Tolkien's work. Luckily, Frieren, beyond journey.
Like again, from everything I've heard, like I want to join in on the shitting of Ring of Power as a fan of the Lord of the Rings, but I guess to be fair, I have not watched it myself, So like I've seen clips that make it seem like absolute trash, but at the same time, I haven't actually watched it.
Journey's End, or So No Frieren, is everything the Rings of Power wishes it could be, and does more justice to Tolkien's work without even using the same name or characters. But what I found most interesting is the surprising similarities between Frieren and Galadriel, as they both share similar character traits, motivations, and even some of the same flaws. Of course, just having those traits doesn't necessarily make a character well written. I know there are a ton of YouTubers who already ragged on Galadriel, calling her a Mary Sue, and even speculating that she may in fact be Sauron in disguise. So it's great to have Frieren as an example of how you could make a likable Galadriel. I highly recommend you watch at least episode 1 of So No Frieren for context. It's only around 20 minutes long, and you will pretty much get everything you need to know about the story and the character. And while I'm not planning to spoil anything that you wouldn't find in the synopsis, it may lessen the impact of your initial viewing experience. For fairness, I guess you can watch...
I mean, same. We see if you haven't watched Frieren. Yeah, watch it.
It's the first episode of Rings of Power 2. Also, I gotta be honest with you, whatever character analysis I do in Galadriel may not even be accurate. Since her character is so one-dimensional, I'm afraid I might make her sound too complex and interesting than she actually is.
Let's watch House of Dragon.
Let's start.
I haven't watched that, yeah. I haven't watched that. I used to watch Game of Thrones, I used to like it. Obviously until I didn't like it anymore at the end. I haven't actually watched any new TV show in like years. I forget the last one I was keeping up with, but it's already been like 4 years, I think. I think the last one I was keeping up with was the Viking or Game of Thrones. After those two, I never like started any other TV show. Same thing with movies. Like a couple years ago, I just stopped watching real life movies. I mean, yeah, I'm kind of behind on all that.
Frieren and Galadriel set off on their adventure after the death of a loved one. For Galadriel, it was her older brother Finrod. And for Frieren, it was her friend and fellow adventurer. Both shows make it pretty clear that those deaths had a massive impact on the protagonists and kickstarted the whole story. So I think it's important to take a look specifically at how those tragic events are presented to the audience. After all, if the viewers are to stick around for the journey, they have to be empathetic to the goals of the protagonist.
Sure.
To make the death of a loved one impactful, a writer has to make them likable or at least establish a strong bond between them and the protagonist.
I mean, Frieren episode 1 is perfect in that way, like... obviously me, I had already read the manga before, so I knew. But even just watching episode 1 for the first time, like it's done so perfectly within half of the episode. Like, Frieren is someone who doesn't really understand emotion too much and all that, but now she realizes she needs to go on a journey to, look back on everything and, like understand her emotion and also kind of like appreciate the world around her a lot more, what is there. And it's like all told in like 10 minutes, basically. And it's done so well that like in 10 minutes you're already choking up from the emotion of it. Like it's that good.
stronger the bond, the more tragic the loss is to both the protagonist and the viewer.
Spoiler.
Most writers know this, so they spend time building up the loved one in the story. There are a ton of great examples. So let's see how the Rings of Power and Soso no Frieren handled this trope. In the Rings of Power, we get to see Galadriel's childhood and Finrod's role in it. Finrod appears to be a caring older brother and a mentor to Galadriel. At least that's what I think the show is trying to establish. The lesson Finrod teaches doesn't really make sense.
The stone sees only downward. The darkness of the water is vast and irresistible.
I think the writer is trying to make the scene appear more deep and profound, but lacks the wisdom to actually make it profound. The worst thing is that having Galadriel and Finrod just sitting around talking in a monotonous voice.
It sounds like they were trying to like copy some of the like the Lions Gone Alphas about, you know, the world and life and death and stuff like that. Huh? Like he kind of says them like this, but what he says actually makes sense. Like it's not convoluted like this.
It doesn't help establish a strong familial bond. Not only is it visually boring, it makes the relationship appear cold and distant.
But you must learn to discern them for yourself. I won't always be here to speak them to you.
You won't?
I'm just as confused as Galadriel.
You what, mate?
Why would Finrod say that? I hope he's not implying that he will die, because the show establishes that death isn't even a concept among the elves at this point.
We had no word for death, for we thought our joys would be unending.
So technically, he could always be around. Then again, I'm not sure he wants to.
Yeah.
There's nothing to indicate that they actually like each other.
That does sound like the most, you know, like foreshadowing line, he's gonna die. Especially in the context of the elves, like in Lord of the Rings, they're like immortal in the sense of like lifespan, right? I mean, I guess Frieren is the same. Like they can be killed if you stab them or something, but otherwise, they're literally like immortal. So why would he even say that?
When he tells her to come home with him, Galadriel just stands there and watches him go alone. Why? I don't get it. I thought they're meant to have a close relationship. Why couldn't you have them walk together, hold hands maybe have her looking up at him while they walk next to each other? Anything to show the two are actually close.
She looks sad too.
I know what the show is trying to symbolize with Finrod leaving her alone, but it wasn't earned yet, which is why I doubt anyone in the audience felt sad when Finrod went to war or when he was killed. We didn't even see him say goodbye to Galadriel before going to war. We don't even see anyone mourn his death besides Galadriel, and even she barely mustered out a tear. One could argue that these elves still don't quite understand the concept of death, but I'd argue it would be a good time to show them emotional and vulnerable. For such an important plot beat, the Rings of Power utterly fail to signify the importance of Finrod and the tragedy of his death. The episode is 1 hour long. Could they not have squeezed in a few scenes of Finrod and Galadriel doing something fun together, or show the moment Galadriel hears about her brother's death? Galadriel is an adult by the time Finrod dies. Could we not have had a...
I guess like he has a point, but at the same time, you know, in comparison to Frieren, like Frieren also does a little bit of that. Like, I guess there's already some scene to care about Himmel and the party early on, but what Frieren does is like throughout the show, they keep like showing flashback to like, you know, show more of the relationship and everything. So I guess it didn't have to be right away to show all the scenes. But from the way he's saying it, they still didn't show even like a little bit. Like from the first 10 minutes of Frieren, you know, before Himmel is in a casket, there's already enough to like feel like he's the coolest dude, you know? And same with Aizen and what am I forgetting?
Scene where Galadriel shows concern about Finrod going to another war campaign. His death could have been a warning to Galadriel about the dangers of vengeful obsessions. There are so many ways of making this good, and they use none of them. But no, Finrod was nothing more than a plot device to justify Galadriel's insane actions throughout the show. Anyway, let's see how Frieren's relationship with Himmel is handled in Soso no Frieren. Unlike the Rings of Power, Soso no Frieren uses a lot of visual storytelling. You can basically watch the show on mute or without subs and still follow the story pretty well. And the show uses this to great effect to establish relationships and signified narrative changes. Just look at the first interaction between Frieren and Himmel. Frieren's face is covered by the book like a wall between her and the rest of the world. Himmel calls her by her name, making her drop that wall. Look at the framing of the shot and how Frieren...
I didn't look at it like that.
She could have been sitting in that shot already. But no, she raises into the frame, almost like she was in her own world until now. Despite there being 4 characters, Frieren, Himmel, Heiter, and Aizen, Frieren is always in frame next to Himmel, signifying Himmel's importance in Frieren's life, especially compared to the other 2 party members. The dialogue too doesn't waste time to establish who they are, their relationship, and even some future events. It feels like a natural conversation and already gives plenty of information for the audience to get a feel for each character. Much like Galadriel, Frieren has that elfish stoicism and appears detached from the other party members. Elves in this anime live for thousands of years, so Frieren perceives the passage of time differently than her human or dwarf companions. So there's a good reason why Himmel also says something along the lines of "I won't always be around," but in a much more subtle way.
True.
It works better than the Rings
that
of
makes
Power
a lot more sense.
Because it's a human telling this to an elf. Now,
especially because we know later in the show, like, he even says that more explicitly, like, you know, like living statues and stuff like that. Huh? Like, the whole reason is to not be forgotten by, like, the regular people, but for Frieren, we know will be around for a long time, to always remember them, I guess, and not be alone. So I think that's one of the interesting things too. Like, despite as presented in episode 1, the later flashback make it feel like, you know, our understanding of like how much Frieren doesn't understand emotion and didn't actually appreciate our time with the party isn't fully true. Like, later flashback make it seem like, yeah, actually, you know, while it was going on already, you know, understood a little bit of like the importance of the party and our relationship with them. It's so well done. It's so well done.
Now, if this was Rings of Power, this would be the last time we see Himmel. Maybe we see him die in battle and then Frieren standing at his grave. But no, this is So no Frieren, and it's not done making you fall in love with these characters. The show doesn't waste time developing these characters further, highlighting their core traits, their weaknesses, flaws, and their outlook on one another. We get to see flashbacks of their adventures beyond their heroism, which humanizes them and makes them more relatable. It does feel like these characters were adventuring for 10 years. The only one who doesn't feel that is Frieren, who sees 10 years as a measly amount of time, once again highlighting the difference in her perception of time compared to the other party members. She doesn't see the significance of a 10-year-long adventure, which foreshadows the central conflict that will occur later in the show. As the party watches the meteor shower, Frieren offers to take her friends to a place with a better view next time. All that in
10 minutes.
In 50 years.
So
Himmel
good.
looks concerned for a second, but simply chuckles and agrees. Again, for Frieren, 50 years is nothing, and she doesn't even entertain the idea that they won't be able to do it, and Himmel doesn't correct her assumptions. Of course, for us as the viewers, the subtle visuals make us doubt that will even happen. So now you're probably thinking, oh, I see. They made a promise to go together. She leaves for 50 years, but when she comes back, she finds out that Himmel was killed by an evil demon, so she sets off an adventure to avenge him, right?
That'd be fucking boring.
He's alive and well, he's just old. Too old to go to see the meteor shower, causing conflict. They all meet up and go see the meteor shower. Now I got you. On their journey, a demon attacks and kills her party, setting her on a revenge quest. They all successfully reach the location and enjoy the meteor shower. Unlike Finrod,
avoided all the
Himmel is not
tropes.
just a plot device. He's a character with his own identity and one that is easy to like. In fact, I'd argue that we, as the audience, begin to appreciate Himmel more than Frieren does. And it's only been like 14 minutes. I don't know if you felt like this when you were watching the first episode.
In a sense, yeah, I guess that's the point, yeah, I guess, because Frieren will start to appreciate Himmel more as she starts her journey to look back on things. Like, every time there's a flashback and she remembers this or that, or she understands why he did this or that, like, that's when she understands to appreciate it more. So yeah, I guess that's true. That's a good point. Like, early on, we like him more than, like, in 10 minutes that Frieren did in 10 years in a way. That's interesting.
But the moment Frieren left, my anxiety levels were starting to rise. Throughout the montage of Frieren living by herself, I couldn't help but think about Himmel. In my mind, I was like, is he alright? Is he alive? Frieren, you fool, go visit him, damn it.
Well, I thought his friend is cute.
Foreshadowing to make me feel that way. Even before they set out to see the meteor shower, there was plenty of visual storytelling that made it clear what's going to happen. This will be Himmel's final adventure.
Yeah. I mean, he says that himself, doesn't he? I'm pretty sure he says, I'm glad to have gone on an adventure one last time with all of you. He literally says that, like, yeah. It's like it's fulfilled.
Once again, So no Frieren takes time to showcase the importance of Himmel's death by letting the audience be part of the funeral. And it's full of well thought out visual storytelling. Like this wide shot where we see Frieren at the center with an empty space next to her. Think how many times we saw her in the same shot.
That's a good one.
But now he's not there. Unlike Galadriel, Frieren understands the concept of death. She has seen plenty of it over the thousands of years that she lived.
You can request.
It makes sense that she's stoic during the funeral. Some of
like
the
we've done before.
even shame her for not showing any sadness.
That girl was one of Himmel's companions. I've yet to even see her frown.
English dub. Leave me alone.
But again, for an elf, a human's life is very short and insignificant. And yet...
Yeah.
Last time I played a bit more of the scene than I should have. So this time, if you want to see the funeral scene, you're going to have to watch the full episode. Trust me, it's done in a tasteful and artistic way and truly kickstarts the whole series. Even describing it won't do it justice. But
sure.
yeah, Rings of Power wishes it had a scene like that.
Just watch the show.
For any demons or villains to come in and kill the loved one. In all cases, the Himmel died the best possible way.
I'm sure it was.
Peacefully.
I'm sure it was.
His best friends. The real tragedy is Frieren realizing too late that her friends' lives are short and that she missed out on making many great memories with them. It's a far more relatable introspection that many grieving...
I would say like this point is something that people always say in the VTuber community, right? I'm sure all of you guys have heard it. It's the enjoy the people you like while they're here. Like that's literally what it is. Like it's the same point with Frieren. Like she didn't, while it was going on, she didn't appreciate how good it was and everything was. And it's only when it's gone that she realized what she's missed by not enjoying it more directly when it was the time. Does that make sense?
People feel. Frieren doesn't have some big bad evil guy to focus on killing to make herself feel better. She has to deal with her guilt and regret in other ways. Luckily, Hyter and Ison comfort her, letting her and the audience know that she still has two friends who are there for her, and maybe she will learn to appreciate them more. Meanwhile, I have no idea what Galadriel is thinking or feeling. I don't really know what kind of introspection she's having, besides acknowledging the horrors of war and choosing to seek out vengeance against the one who killed her brother. But not before stealing the blade out of Finrod's cold dead hands. Wouldn't it have been great to see her comforted by her friends instead? Does she even have friends?
Good question.
Does Finrod have any friends? Maybe that's why she chose to deal with grief in such a toxic way. By the way, do you know why she took Finrod's blade?
Well,
it's because the writers thought it's so clever to have a blade symbolize Finrod. Look, it's like her brother is besides her, guiding her and protecting.
I mean, I thought it was like took the blade to kill whoever killed him with that blade, you know, like revenge, I guess. Literally any video. No, it's weren't you there when I did the stream like this before? I thought you were there. Like you know, like anything that I don't usually do on the Sunday stream. So like videos about nature, animals, something about your country, something about cars, I don't know, documentary about history or something, any lengths, and I can't guarantee I'll do it. I'll only do it if I'm interested. That's about the gist of it, and you can suggest a couple if you want. That's the idea.
The writers didn't even realize they were literally objectifying Finrod. Would it not have been more meaningful if he gave her that blade, rather than her prying it out of her brother's corpse? Again, it would have been something to show the relationship.
I don't really mind that plot point.
In case, we see her look at the ring after the funeral, implying that it's something she got from Himmel. It's not yet clear what the significance of the ring is,
story video.
I'm sure we will find out later in the series.
I'm not sure about that.
Himself made sure that he will not be forgotten by anyone, especially Frieren. He also appears on flashbacks and in the characters that Himmel helped in the past. His existence improved many lives and inspired many heroic deeds. It's a presence that never leaves Frieren's side, even if Himmel is dead.
I don't know.
Finrod, on the other hand, he has one statue, I guess. Amongst other elves who died in battle, he doesn't appear exceptional in that way. And again, because we never see any more scenes between him and Galadriel, it's really hard to empathize with Galadriel's quest. So I guess the blade is better than nothing. You could still do something with it. It could be used.
I mean, I see One Piece. I see the point he's making, and again, I haven't seen the show. But sometimes, like, I guess it is just one of the trap that so many stories do, right? Like Chinese meme explain video. I don't remember that either. It's one of the things like the revenge story, right? It's like one of the most basic way to write a story. And so many of them at this point, it's like being such a trope that the writer don't even try. They'll just make, you know, like the most 2-minute flashback of they were an happy family, then someone killed them, and then the character is going on a revenge mission. Like, it's so fun like that these days. Like, there's very little to make you care in this kind of revenge story. It's just like always the same trope, right? Like the shortest amount of time to make you understand family killed, character goes on revenge for the family, the end. So yeah, I guess it's kind of like a weak thing in writing. Like, it's very often like that. Just like in the end, you barely care about the characters that actually died. So like, you know, your main character is going on a revenge story because he cared, but you don't really care, you know? That's often a problem, I guess.
like Luffy's hat, where she gives it to someone important to her, but they don't, so I don't know why I'm bringing it up. But you may be thinking, Trend, we hear you. These scenes are important, but what about the main characters? Which elf girl is better? What makes them similar or different? Okay, spoiler warning for episodes beyond the first episode. This is for both Frieren and Rings of Power.
That's to be the best shot in Frieren.
You will still be able to come back and watch this video fully. Look, I think it's pretty obvious which character will be better written. But you're right, I did say there's a lot to compare between Galadriel and Frieren. I don't really subscribe to the idea that Galadriel is being a Mary Sue. While the show is definitely trying to portray Galadriel as a tough and capable warrior that is liked or feared by others, her actions and dialogue make her out to be a highly flawed character. Remember when I mentioned elven stoicism? Yeah, Galadriel struggles with that one. In many scenes, we see her barely holding her emotions in. She always looks like she's about to snap.
She looks like she's about to cry.
Sauron tells you to keep it calm.
Show some restraint. Let's try not to antagonize these people.
Then if blood be the price of passage, I will pay it. But one way or another, I will depart.
If she had Darth Vader's force choke abilities, her arm would get tired from using it too much. The only time I remember seeing her happy is when she's riding that horse. And it's such a brief moment that the filmmakers decided to slow-mo that scene, just to have a longer...
Zack Snyder, is that you?
The rest of the time she's arguing, whining about her trauma, glaring at people, or standing around like an idiot.
She looked constantly mad and crying.
And molten rocks are falling on the villagers. Galadriel, why
that
are
looks
you
pretty
standing
bad.
there? Rocks are falling, people are dying. Aren't you gonna help them? Show some leadership? Hell, some self-preservation perhaps. Why are you standing there looking confused? It's not that difficult to understand what's happening. Go, help them. Okay, I'll guess you'll die. When she's not acting like an idiot, she finds a way to make herself more unlikable. Every reply she says sounds like the renegade option in a video game.
I will take my chances on the skiff.
That would leave a little choice.
She seems very edgy, you know. Mass Effect.
The words never managed to escape your throat.
You do well to identify what it is that your opponent most fears.
And exploit it.
No.
For those who don't get reference in Mass Effect, you have like a morality system, I guess, in a sense. So you have Renegade and Paragon. Renegade is like when you have like, I guess, very savage answers, you know, like more military guy answer. And Paragon is like your, you know, more of like a peace type, I guess, maybe trying to like solve situation. And sometimes like, you know, conversation, you have like a prompt to like interject, I guess. You can choose to not do it, but if you do it, it's really like Paragon, so it's like, you know, just shutting someone up. That's the reference.
Surprisingly enough, I think Galadriel's likability comes out most when she's interacting with Hellbrand. I'm not gonna lie, there is a sort of chemistry between the two. It's not as strong as Frieren's and Himmel's, but it is there.
Don't tell me. Tavern brawl.
Sedition.
Much like Frieren, Galadriel struggles to relate to others, but in a slightly different way. She lacks manners and diplomacy skills, often treating others as lessers.
Who is this mortal? Who speaks to me as if he has the slightest...
Okay, but also the difference is like the whole point of Frieren is that, you know, she's growing every episode. Almost she might learn lesson and look back on like some of her old memories and understand why something happened that way or that way. And that's how she grows. So the whole point is that she's growing every episode.
Just idea who I am.
So she often makes her own mission more difficult. That's why it's nice to have Hellbrand trying to help her navigate social conventions.
So by your standards, I am in this cell because I am yet to identify what the Queen most fears.
My very low standards, yes.
And I suppose you did, having met her for all of a few moments.
During which you managed to demand a ship, insult her people, defy her orders, none of which quickened her pulse.
He's also the one who makes her acknowledge her own flaws and open up more.
I have been searching for my peace for longer than you know. Please, for both our sakes, let me keep it.
She looks so mad.
Perhaps some peace could do you.
Every shot she looks so mad.
There is a semblance of a good character dynamic there. However, it would be better if they weren't Galadriel and Sauron, because I don't like the idea of this Galadriel becoming the kind and caring Galadriel from the Lord of the Rings
this is the
because of
Galadriel.
Sauron's guidance. It just doesn't feel right.
So this dude is supposed to be Sauron. Obviously, Sauron used to be an elf, I believe. Then he was, I don't know if he corrupted himself or if he was corrupted or something, and then he became, you know, the Dark Lord, I guess. But looking at that dude, it doesn't feel Sauron, you know?
It's not poison, if that's your concern. Not for humans, anyway.
But let's be fair, Frieren also has immature qualities. But much like the funeral scene, everything is spaced out to make sure the audience actually likes Frieren and relates to her despite her quirks and shortcomings. The early episodes of So no Frieren are all about establishing characters and the world. She's a stoic, intelligent mage who likes to collect spells. While appearing to be calm and collected, she's not beyond getting into trouble, being lazy, naive, or quirky. More importantly, she's quite detached from others, often struggling to relate to humans and their sentimentality. It's only after Himmel's death does she begin to address her flaws.
Yeah.
But even then, we see that it's a slow process and not one that she can overcome on her own. That's why Fern, an apprentice that Hyter left for Frieren to take care of, is such an important character in the story. Remember when I told you about my frustration with Frieren when she was wasting her time while Himmel was getting old? That's basically Fern. She's there to spur Frieren on to stop her from wasting precious time.
Yeah.
Unlike Himmel, Fern is not going to chuckle 50 years away. Look at the fear in her eyes when Frieren says she will end her search soon. Fern works great as the audience's POV and lets them explore Frieren's more vulnerable and relatable sides. It's something that the Rings of Power is not willing to do with Galadriel. I don't know anything about Galadriel. I only know her quest for revenge, but that's about it.
Yeah.
She's basically Xandar from Drawn Together.
And frankly, I was just thinking about like the quest for revenge can work in a sense. Like there's another like Lord of the Rings thing, which is I don't know if you guys have ever played Shadow of War, or was it Shadow of Mordor, the first one? That game from about 10 years ago. And they're basically like Lord of the Rings game, where the main story is about this guy who's like he's like a human marauder, I think, some kind of like guard, and his family gets murdered by the force of Sauron, and he ends up getting murdered himself, but he's brought back to life because he's basically like fused with like an ancient like elvish like spirit or something. And so the whole plot of the game is basically that. Like the game starts and within 5 minutes, you know, you've met your family, they are killed, you are killed, you come back to life, and then the game is about like, you know, finding revenge, right? And so the story isn't super interesting. Like the Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of War games are known for like the gameplay. They have the Nemesis system. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. It's an insane system that unfortunately, like, I think it's Ubisoft patented, so like no other developer has been using it. But basically, like the game, you have a bunch of orcs who all have like randomized, based on a set of like predefined things, randomized personality, names, like abilities and stuff like that. And the thing of the game is that you have to build an army, so you can recruit those orcs. And there's a ton of like mechanic. So like, for example, if you fight an orc and you kill it, it might actually survive and come back later on to like, I don't know, attack you, ambush you, stuff like that. So that's called the Nemesis system. It's really, really cool. So obviously that's like the best part of the game. But the story was still fine. Like in the end, it's like a very simple revenge story. Like your family, you met them for 5 minutes and they're killed. And then the game is about, you know, like going after anybody who knows anything about it. So it's not super deep, but it was still satisfying. But I guess the difference is that it was like in the context of a game. So like you don't need to, that way it didn't feel like they needed to go too deep with it. Even as someone would usually prefer like games that have the best kind of story with the gameplay. But in that way, it was like the gameplay was the most fun thing. So like you do so much fun things in between the mission that you don't really care that, you know, like you're not that invested in like the family of the main character. Like you understand in his revenge, and that lets you do a ton of brutal stuff getting that revenge. But I guess in a show like, yeah, the Ring of Power, whatever, it doesn't work the same because, yeah, like you're watching like 50 1 hour episode, and you're following a character which like you barely care about their reason to go on a journey. That is definitely the problem. I see the point.
I am Xander. I'm on a never-ending quest to save my girlfriend.
Okay.
I am on a never-ending quest to save my girlfriend.
But even Xander had more personality than
fuck?
Galadriel. Unlike Galadriel, Frieren doesn't sit around on
Nipple
her rank
rings.
or laurels. Even though she defeated a Morgoth-sized enemy and became the hero of the land, Frieren isn't above helping villagers clean the beach or summon some flowers to make the garden look nice.
Yeah.
But here's the cool thing. Frieren takes 7 episodes to finally introduce a real threat, and many viewers who had fun watching this quirky elf will be taken aback by the change in tone and Frieren's behavior. As the audience, we don't even need to know the backstory between Frieren and demons yet. The shift in her character is enough to indicate how she feels about them and lets us infer what may have happened in the past.
Sure.
This part of the story is also where Frieren and Galadriel are the most similar. Both elves hate the main monsters that they battle. and they execute them without remorse.
Let's talk this through!
Surprisingly enough,
but the most interesting thing, though, which I've talked about before, is like compared to like most of the, and maybe it will change later in the story, to show that was a mistake. But compared to most of the fantasy story like this, like in Frieren, they make a big point that literally, yeah, like the demons are literal demons. Like there's the whole point about, you know, if there is world, we can talk to them and we can understand each other. But no, like in Frieren, they really make the point that it's like the whole race is only about like death, chaos, and destruction, and they're basically just like a little bit evolved from like normal monsters. So I think that was something pretty interesting. Like they could have just done like so many series, you know, like some of us are bad, some of us are good, you know, like any race. But in Frieren, they're really making it like, yeah, the demons, you know, they just have this instinct to just dominate and kill everything. So I kind of like that. That's just like not what we used to, because in most series it would be just, you know, like Frieren thinks that all the demons are bad, but she's gonna meet one that's gonna make her think different. But so far that doesn't happen, and I kind of like that aspect of it.
Galadriel is actually the more merciful between the two elves, as she has concerns over what her pursuit of vengeance is turning her into.
Before I drive my dagger into your poisoned heart, I will whisper in your piked ear that all your offspring are dead.
Okay.
And the scourge of your kind ends with you.
It would seem I'm not the only elf alive who's being transformed by darkness.
It's not a bad
so
idea,
close shot.
and if executed well, I'd actually have to give
So
a
edgy,
point to
yeah,
Rings of
that's
Power
what it
for
seems
this one.
like.
And so no Frieren remains as cold as ever when confronted by demons. She's not conflicted by her actions at all.
Damn. Reminder that Aura was like, despite showing 42 episodes, she was more popular than Frieren in like popularity poll.
Well, the show gives us good reason to hate demons.
Amazing.
Too. You can't help but feel sorry for them. Yes, demons have no empathy. They're just evil, so you shouldn't feel sorry for them. But I do. Because this brutal depiction of demon slaying does portray Frieren as a danger. That makes her out to be as deceitful and merciless to demons as demons are to others. But if you want to debate the ethics of slaying these demons, there's a video for that. I'll see you in the comment section.
Okay.
On one hand, it makes Frieren appear like a badass demon slayer. On the other, I'm concerned that the show will not have any stakes or threats coming from the demon side anymore. And yes, you can say that Soso no Frieren is not solely about slaying demons, but I do want to see a bit more conflict there too. Apparently manga readers mentioned I don't need to worry about that, so I'll take their word for it. Of course, I heard that one from manga fans.
But yeah, I was gonna say, personally I've only read the manga up to maybe halfway through the show, so I have no idea what's coming. I was gonna say maybe that's not the point though, like it's not really the point again. Like, do we really need as far as like the whole point of the show is for Frieren to grow as a character, grow to understand the world, understand human, look back on all her memories and all that. So does she really need to find some demons to have like a proper fight? I mean, is that really needed in any way for her to grow or something? Actually, maybe they could do it. Like, I guess they could definitely do a part of an arc like that. Where like, yeah, she faced something that she, you know, despite how powerful she is now, she can't actually beat alone. It makes her remember, you know, about how great it was to fight with her team back in the days. And now she has Stark and Fern to fight with her and all that. I guess they could do something like that, yeah.
Before, so we'll keep an eye out. I want to see Frieren take damage or at least break a sweat. Otherwise, that will be another thing that Frieren and Galadriel have in common. In terms of who did it better, I'm pretty sure you can all...
Yeah, but again, I don't really agree with that point. Like, they could do it definitely for, yeah, as I said, like an interesting relation to her growing and all that. But at the same time, do we really need it? Like, not especially.
I'll agree that Frieren has the upper hand. The anime just gives so much more details about the characters, their personalities, their little quirks. It's something that the Rings of Power should have really done with Galadriel. They desperately need to flesh her out more and strengthen her relationship with Finrod. But the Rings of Power is not just about Galadriel. There's a ton of side characters and side plots that ultimately take away screen time from Galadriel. And unfortunately, none of those stories provide any value to the Tolkien fan. But if you like Lord of the Rings and you're willing to give anime a shot, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by what Soso no Frieren can offer.
Sure.
Thank you for watching the video again. I hope this one will manage to stick around.
I hope.
I appreciate the support I receive from my subscribers who watched the video twice
5 months ago.
I am still
Hopefully
a bit of a
it'll be
newbie
fine.
YouTuber. so I can use these situations as a learning opportunity.
Good video.
If you're new here, I hope you enjoyed this video too. Please consider subscribing if you want to see more content like this.
Good video. I guess another recommendation I have for anyone who wants like anime Lord of the Rings to an extent, the Lodos franchise that I often talk about. Basically, there used to be like a bunch of Japanese guys playing D&D back in the 80s, and one of them started a light novel series called Lodos, The Chronicles of Lodos, and there was a couple anime adaptation. It's literally like the most straightforward kind of like fantasy. It's very similar in some way to Lord of the Rings, maybe less impactful in some way, but you know, you get the most classic elves and stuff like that. Like in anime at least, you know, one of the early depiction of elves is in Lodos, with like the long ears, Didlit. So I recommend Lodos. Okay, pretty good video. Definitely, again, I can't fully comment on it because I haven't seen Ring of Powers and I'm not very interested. Actually, I think maybe I think the last new show I tried was The Witcher. Yeah, I think The Witcher TV show was the last TV show I tried. And season 1 was alright, and I know the next few seasons are terrible. So yeah, I think that was the last one. Good video. I do watch video essay like this quite often, so good channel. This was really interesting. But again, I can't really actually comment. I mean, I haven't seen Ring of Powers. On the clip they show and what I've heard of it, yeah. Like all I've heard is that the show is terrible and that Galadriel as the main character is terrible. She's basically just Miss Invincible, super edgy, and there's really like nothing that feels like the way Tolkien would have portrayed any of it on any of the character, right? I guess that's the feeling of it.